Okay, I'm going to start with this one. So this is almost exactly what it's going to look like on your test. You're going to, and this would be the calculator portion. It's going to give you an equation. You're going to plug it into your calculator, and then you're going to answer several questions based on it, okay? I'm going to give you a graph, and it literally will say the graph is not worth points. It is simply for you to draw on and label things because it's usually easier to label that than it is to keep going back and forth between your calculator. So when I draw y equals 2x to the 5th minus 2x to the 3rd minus 6x squared minus 3x plus 7, and I graph it, my graph looks something like this. Let's see, it goes up to 7. 1, 2, 3. Something like that. And again, I don't need it to be exact. What I do want to do is the minimum I would say to label is your max and min, because that's going to help you with your increasing and decreasing behavior, okay? So the very first thing you can look at is your domain. My arrows are going left to right, which means there's no domain restriction. And if you look at your equation, there's no variable in a denominator, there's no variable in a root, and there's no variable combination of those two. So I know my domain is all real numbers. There are also arrows pointing down and arrows pointing up, which means there's no restriction on my range. If this was like a parabola, my domain could be all real numbers, but my range is still going to be restricted. It's going to go from negative infinity to that max point, okay? But because there's arrows going both directions, this range is also negative infinity to positive infinity. Now, before I do intervals, I'm going to do my max and min to get this first maximum point, and there might be more than one max and there might be more than one min, so you got to be prepared to do it all, okay? I'm going to go second trace. I'm going to go to my max value. I'm going left of the max, I'm going right of the max, and I'm hitting enter, and this max value on the calculator is negative 0.285 and 7.140. So not only is that going to help me with my increasing and decreasing, because that's where it's going to change, that's also the answer for the max. Then I'm going to go to my min. So second trace minimum, and I'm going left and right of the min. And that minimum point is 1.303 and negative 4.008. Your test is going to tell you this time to round to 3 decimal places, but as we move forward, it's not going to remind you every time. It is 3 decimal places from here till May, unless we're talking about money, obviously. Money, we don't have 0.258 cents, okay? So that's my relative min. So that's going to answer here 1.303, comma, negative 4.008. Now I'm going to look at my increasing and decreasing behavior. So my graph starts at the bottom and it works its way up, which means that first interval is increasing. It is increasing, I'm going to do this over here, increasing from negative infinity to the x coordinate of my max, which is negative 0.285. Then it changes and it comes down, which means it's decreasing from that x, which is negative 0.285, to the x on my minimum value, which is 1.303. And then my graph changes direction again and comes back up, which means it finishes off increasing. So I'm going to put a U from the x that's on my minimum, 1.303, to infinity. Questions so far? So get your max and min first, because that's going to help you with your increasing, decreasing. Like I said, I think I put it in that order in the test. Now I go to my zeros. So this is crossing my x-axis 3 times. Once here, once here, once here. You don't have to label these on your graph, okay? You could just get them, because I don't need them for later. So second trace, go to 0. But I do have to do it 3 times. So left of my first 0, right of my first 0, and then hit enter. And I get negative 1.218. Trace it again, 0. Now I'm going to the left of the second time it crosses through the x-axis, then right of it, and then guess. And I get 0.832. And then the last time it crosses through, second trace 0, I want to go left of it, I want to go right of it, and I want to go right there, and that's 1.613. Then it says, is this function even, odd, or neither? I could take the time to literally plug in a negative x and a negative x and a negative x and a negative x, simplify it all, see if it goes back to the original. If it does, then it has symmetry to the y-axis, which means it's even. And if every single sign changes, then it's odd, because that would be symmetric to the origin. Or I could understand by looking at the graph. That does not have y-axis symmetry, and that does not have symmetry to the origin. So this is a neither scenario, okay? And then we're going to find f of negative 1.6 by doing the value. Second trace, go to value, negative 1.6. And I get negative 16.3395. This bumps this, which bumps that. Negative 16.340. Yep. Scarlett. If it says intercepts, we put them in coordinate point form. If it says zeros, we list them. So actually, good question, because the other thing that your test asks is y-intercept, okay? Which my x is 0. So I'm going to do second trace value, and I'm going to make my x 0, and I get 7. That one's not terrible to get from your equation because everything would have zeroed out, and the only thing left is 7. But you could also get it from your calculator. Questions? It's a big chunk of a question, okay? And the more fluid you are with your calculator, the easier it's going to be. If you're trying to like figure it out because this is the first, second, even third time that you've tried to get a 0 or a max or min, you're going to waste your time on something you shouldn't be wasting your time on. Because we still have difference quotient, graphing, like there's still things that do take time on this test. You can't take a lot of time on this question. The more comfortable you are with your calculator, you could fly through this question. Okay, but if you're still being clumsy and stumbling through it, you're wasting time that sucks. Don't do it, okay? All right, came the piecewise function. So this would be on the non-calculator portion. And it's going to be in multiple parts. It's not one big piecewise question like this. But the first thing I'm going to do is graph this piecewise function, okay? So the first thing it says is y equals 2x minus 3, where x is less than negative 2. So I go to negative 3. I plot my y-intercept, and my slope is up 2 over 1 or down 2 and to the left 1. And I would have the big line drawn there. I only want this where it is less than negative 2, however. So I'm going to go to where x is negative 2. On the graph, that would be here. It's an open dot because it can't include it. And I would shade everything to the left of it. And I would get rid of everything else. Then I go to the next part, and this is a parabola, right? It's pointed down, it's shifted up 1. So I know an approximation of where it goes. It would be up 1, up and out 1, and it would look something like this, okay? But I only want to keep that one where it's greater than or equal to 0, which means the first point I want is the y-intercept. And I want it to go to where 2 is. I didn't have an exact plot for 2, so I'm going to plug it in. It'd be negative 2 squared plus 1. That negative is not in the parentheses, right? So what is negative 2 squared if the negative's not in the parentheses with the 2? Negative 4. Don't let that get you. Oh, which would be negative 3. So then 2, negative 3 is where I'm going to stop this graph, and it's going to be an open dot because it's not or equal to. So here is my piecewise function, and I left you space for a reason, okay? Because I want you to understand what happens with your domain and range here. So if domain goes left to right, what's the furthest point left on this graph? Negative infinity because it's an arrow, right? So I'm going to go from negative infinity. Let me erase this part. I'm going to go from negative infinity up to the first time my graph stops moving left to right, which is what x? Negative 2, and that's an open dot, so that's going to get a parentheses. then there are no x values plotted on this graph until I hit 0 again. But it's a solid dot, so I start at 0. And then my furthest point to the right is positive 2, and it's an open dot, so it gets a parentheses. Questions on domain? Okay, then I go range. So I'm going bottom, top. What's the lowest point? Negative infinity, because that arrow is pointing down. And then it comes up to this point, but then it stops and there's a gap. So that point was, I didn't even count it out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, thank you. -7, open dot, so it gets a parentheses. And then it stops, and then it starts again at -3, open dot. And then it stops again at +1, close dot. So we've got to be able to read a graph and know to stop and start domain and range. If they overlapped, if this literally went all the way down, now my range is going from -infinity up to 1. My x values still stop. But if this overlapped, now my x values are from -infinity to +infinity. But if there's a gap, you have to stop and start your domain and range. Okay, so on the intervals, which is increasing, decreasing, it is increasing from -infinity to that point, which our x was -2, parentheses. And then it is decreasing from 0 to 2. Both get parentheses because we're talking about increasing, decreasing behavior. There is only one 0. It is where it crosses the x-axis here, which is at 1. The function is definitely neither. There's no symmetry there. And f of 1 is 0. Questions on any of that? So in separate parts, you're gonna have to know how to evaluate a piecewise function, which means like find f of whatever. You're gonna have to know how to identify domain and range if your graph stops and starts, increasing, decreasing behavior, and then also graph it by hand. Nico.
Can you scroll down
To the
decrease?
0 to 2.
And was the other one when it was even, odd, or neither?
There's no symmetry there, so it's neither.
For the first one?
Oh, also none. Yep. All right, so let's go through. And I didn't take a picture. All right, in this example, you've got -3 square root -x plus 2 minus 4. So we're going to take this apart. The negative on the front is a reflection over the x-axis. So it's going to take this square root and it's going to flip it upside down so it would point down. The 3 is a vertical stretch or a vertical dilation by a factor of 3. So remember, on the outside, we leave the factor alone. On the inside, the negative underneath the square root is a reflection over the y-axis. So this is going to shift my arrow from pointing to the right to pointing to the left. And the +2 underneath is going to move my graph left 2. The -4 is going to move it up. This should be down 4. It's going to move it down 4. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is go to the left 2 and down 4 and point my arrow down and to the right. And this is without the flip over the y-axis. So then I'm going to flip it over the y-axis. It's going to point it left. Now the other option here is doing the same at the beginning, but allowing this negative to change the direction of your horizontal shift. So I'm still going to point it left because that's where the arrow needs to point. But instead of moving to the left 2, I'm going to move to the right 2. So I'm going to go down 4, I'm going to go to the right 2, and I'm going to point my arrow down and left because of both of the reflections, and it's going to be vertically stretched. Okay, now looking at B, the 4 inside is going to be a horizontal dilation. And we use the reciprocal, so by a factor of 1/4. The -3 inside the parentheses is a shift to the right 3. And the down 1, or the -1 is a shift down 1. So right 3, down 1. It's an absolute value, so it's going to be a V. But instead of going up 1 and out 1, we're going to take those x's and multiply by a fourth, which is going to make it more narrow. Would be Desmos. Like Desmos is a great way to kind of tweak your numbers and see what's happening. So if you don't understand what's happening with your narrow wide or your stretch and that kind of stuff, and like you came in here and you messed around with your X and Y and you put a number in, it's going to change the graph for you. So I think the app is what you can expect from your test review, okay? So I assigned it today, and a test review for me is like a quiz review. I give you all the answers worked out, so I don't need you to just like write the back and hand them back into me. You need to be smart enough to know you need to do a test review, okay? So even though it's non-graded, it doesn't mean don't do it. That would be dumb, okay? And the due date I put on Tuesday, but obviously I would do a big chunk of it for tomorrow so that you can ask me questions tomorrow in class. If you don't and you wait till Tuesday, there's no question time in class on Tuesday. It is walk in, start your test. So if you need help, it has to happen tomorrow, okay? We talked about it already, but you will start with your calculator question. Then you will switch to the non-calculator question. So my advice for you tonight is get through as much of your test review as you can. If it's something that you're really confident in and maybe there's 2 of them, maybe skip the second one for tonight so you could revisit it. But do the test review this evening so that tomorrow we can go over those questions. If you didn't try the AP questions last night, you need to jump in there and at least look at them for tonight. And then we'll talk about them tomorrow. Yeah. Somebody asked me last class how many questions. Technically, I think there's 9. But so many of them have like A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, whatever it is, that there are way more than 9 individual questions, okay? You're going to start with your calculator just like you do with your quiz. You get one big chunky question where it asks you a bunch of things, and then one more additional question that you're going to have the calculator for, which is like word problem based. And then we move into the non-calc. And in non-calc, I mean, we haven't done it in a while. We go back to intercepts, difference quotient, lines with given slope, y-intercepts, parallel, perpendicular, all of that stuff was in this section. And then kind of 1-3 is what we started the big chunky question. And 1-4 obviously was what your transformations were, okay? My advice is do as much of your review as you can tonight, because tomorrow you can ask me questions on it. Okay, if you wait until the weekend to do your review and you try to come in J period and ask me a bunch of questions, I'm going to lose it on you. J period on Monday or on Tuesday, you come in, you start your test. Okay, there's no time for questions. So if you have questions, you can come in the morning on Tuesday. Okay, but ideally you do the review tonight so that tomorrow in class I can go over some questions with you and do some extra practice.
When is the AP classroom due?
Well, I'm not going to actually have you turn it in, but you do need to look at those questions tonight.
The word problem.
The 2, was it 2? 2 or 3? I can't remember anymore. But the AP questions, you're going to get questions like that on your test. So you want to look at them tonight, attempt them. Tomorrow we'll talk about them, okay? I'll have them screenshot and ready to go instead of trying to go online. I would just say that another tool that, like, if you haven't played around with it to understand your transformations,